All right, TeslaParts.com is here to pick up this base motor. Differential needs to be serviced. I'm gonna take it to their guy up in Vista, and then it's gonna be brought back down so we can finally install it inside of there. What's up, guys? It's a new week and it is a fresh start for this drive unit once it gets its differential serviced. So what I have in my hand is that Quaife limited slip differential, and I'm up here at the shop in Vista where they're going to redo this drive unit for us. They have the bearings, I have the differential. I'm going to go drop this off and say hi to them, and this drive unit is going to come back to us here shortly and we'll be able to put it in our Z. This is Tommy with QC Charge.
Hello. So we're gonna put in a new coolant seal on the, I guess you call this the coolant tube assembly. We're gonna put in hybrid ceramic bearings. Make sure that there's no arc within the ceramic ball bearings to make sure that there's no pitting and no more noise.
Okay, so normally they're steel on steel, so they pit, they cause noise in the future. And
we're also gonna replace the bearings on the main drive gear. Those bearings tend to wear out more often since they are on the main drive. They connect directly to the rotor.
Okay.
And then we'll put on new axle seals just to freshen those up. You see they're pretty old and dusty.
Ooh, yeah, those could be freshened up, definitely. You're gonna remove this guy, crack it open, seals on the outside, bearings on the inside. Our Quaife is sitting up over there on that desk, and this thing's gonna be refreshed and be tip-top when it gets back to us.
Yep.
That service that Tommy just described, they're going to be doing to ours, aside from the limited slip differential, that's actually a service that Autobahn is going to provide to anybody that buys a drive unit off of them. They're going to send it to these guys and they're going to get it cracked open. They're going to make sure that it's going to be in top performance to anybody who gets that. It's tempting to go for the low price ones, but there's no guarantee on those. This is the closest thing you're going to get to a guarantee because they're going to actually take a look and quality control that. Let's get back down to the shop and get working on that Z again. Today I'm gonna go ahead and get started on finishing this thing, getting it to its black painted state before I install the fans, before I install the radiator, and before it gets strapped to the large drive unit subframe. Not in that, that's the freak. That guy right there. I don't like that this is just kind of like a plate that ends. I'm actually gonna take a grinder and I'm gonna finish these. They're gonna have a rounded point instead. So we have 1/8 inch aluminum here and we have 3/16 right here. So I'm gonna shape these a little bit so that they're more aesthetically pleasing. So this is what I want to do. Instead of having it be just this kind of blunt, square, rectangular edge, I put a dull knife's edge on all of these.
Looking good.
So that fan shroud radiator mount, all in all, is done being painted black. So I'm gonna switch modes. I'm actually gonna start mounting the brake booster, the eye booster that is a Bosch part. This thing is gonna have regen braking, so really we could single pedal drive this thing if we don't need to slam on the brakes. The controller is gonna throw brake lights when the regen is kicked on, so people won't rear end us. The brake lights will actually let people know that the car is slowing down. It's gonna be just like a Tesla in that matter. So let's go ahead and switch the brake eye booster pump mounted to the firewall. Well, Mickey's already started the process. This is the original pattern of the brake pedal to the master cylinder. This is now what the eye booster is, where these red circles are. So I'm gonna notch this out. This is our brake pedal. Firewall already has this clearance, so I just gotta make sure I have this as well. this pedal was already a dual channel Hall throttle. So there's already a 6-wire pin here that was gonna go to the throttle. We probably could just use the stock throttle pedal and not have to worry about making a bracket or anything. I'm gonna go check that out, pin it out really quick. Well, we were gonna use the Tesla throttle, which I have in my hands right here. But instead, since I just found that this was a drive-by-wire before, I'm just gonna reuse the Z pedal. That way we're not gonna have to make a custom bracket, and we'll just have the original Z pedal in there, make it even more just kind of a purely converted Z. What a hoser! Yeah. E-brake. Jackpot. There it is, there's our 6-pin. This looks to be a pot box. So instead of it being internal, there's an external module right here that takes the travel of the pedal inside of here, converts it to electronic. But that's awesome, look at that. It's already a custom bracket by Nissan. So we did about an 8 or 9 degree pad right here to offset this so it's sitting a little bit more level. And our eye booster is in place. So now we are just waiting for the wiring harness kit to arrive. So now that that's done, we're gonna go ahead and continue working on, oh boy. Well, we have quite a bit of rewiring to do back there on that panel, but at least everything that needs to go up into here to control our eventual push button start, our key switch ignition, our drive selector knob, a few other things that are gonna turn on the high voltage drive system are ran up through these looms. So I've been saying it for a while, but now I'm finally able to do it. Let's sort some spaghetti. It's waiting for me down there. One more issue that we had while switching from the Zero EV board to the T2C. The Zero EV board wants to see a constant 12-volt signal to one of 2 pins in order to go into drive or reverse, whereas the T2C wants a momentary ground, push button, push and release in order to switch between drive, neutral, or reverse. It wants to see a neutral signal. So it's one thing to just switch from throwing a positive to throwing a ground. It's another thing to figure out how, if your switch itself does not have an output for neutral, how to get a signal going to the T2C. So what I've gone ahead and done is incorporated a normally closed relay in between the switch here and what's going to the T2C. So when I switch this between neutral to drive or neutral to reverse, there's 2 signals that are output from this. One is a relay control and one is a signal output. When I do this, one of these, this white with black, is a ground that gets sent to the coil of this relay, and the ground is on my common and the relay is in normally closed mode when I don't have this switch to drive or reverse. As soon as I go into drive or reverse, it lets go of this common, and then the common signal is able to go to the pin for drive or reverse at the T2C. When I shift out of drive or reverse, the coil lets go, and the ground that is on the common pin here is then looped through the normally closed and goes to the neutral pin on the T2C. That was good to figure out because now this thing is going to be able to shift between neutral, drive, and reverse. And I didn't have to change this. I was possibly going to have to change this to 3 buttons that are momentary pushes, and I do have those in case this doesn't work. But I have faith that this will work because I don't want to use these. I think this switch is much better looking. Ricky, what are you doing?
We are getting ready to pick up Will's big old battery box so we can finally put a AA battery in this car. It is time, baby! Look at that. strapped up. I'm nervous right now. There's a whole lot of weight at the end of this thing.
Nah, don't be nervous.
Will's happy.
It's in the car.
Yeah, we've got 700 pounds loaded in the front. 700!
Yeah, Mickey?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking going in, but we got her. Everything lines up. Almost like we've been working on this for 2 years.
Well, it's back to the metal shop now. We have our Mishimoto radiator for the powertrain and charger DC-DC that we need to get some AN12 weld-on bungs. Right now there is a hose barb fitting. Same thing here. So right now there is a hose barb fitting that we're gonna go ahead and just kind of resurface to make sure the welds are on a clean surface. And this one has an angle down. I'm gonna cut this off and go ahead and make this flush right here, about the same height as that one. And then we will have Evan weld on some AN12s, and we're gonna cut and cap this. And then we are going to paint this black to match the black fan shroud diffuser radiator mount. I have some connections to make. I have some 2-watt crimps to do in order to go into our cannon plug right here. Our thermistors can actually plug to the outside, but I'm gonna wait until I have the BMS cell taps in. In order to get those in, the rear box has to go in. And I have a few connections to make on here while I have this big open space to work in. So I'm gonna go ahead and make these connections first, and I believe the rear box will go in later today. We got no weight on this back right now, so we're strapping against the lift right here because I got 700 pounds up front. And maybe on about, I don't know what the subframe weighs, I don't want to say 200 pounds. I ran the rest of these wires. We now have our AC from the wall, our power and comms from the 12 volt and the CAN bus. We have our DC-DC and charger output. And then this is our positive and our ground. So I ran our positive up all the way to that. It's kind of like a splitter. So it takes the higher gauge cable, it spits out 2 fused outputs. One of them is gonna run back and go up to our fuse and relay panel above there. The other one, Ricky's gonna run along the passenger side door frame, and he's gonna go up to the battery location. So Ricky knows exactly how to do this. He's really good at it, so I'm gonna let him do that while I finish this brake booster.
Yeah, self-tappers and zip ties.
There you go.
The other way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So I just took in delivery of our brake booster kit, wiring kit that we ordered from it's called evcreate.nl. They're just a company in the Netherlands. They do the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 iBooster wiring kits. Everything is nice and labeled. The pins, the grommets, or the bushings, and even some blank pin plugs for some of these ones that we're not using. There's actually very minimal wires that we need to plug into this Bosch connector. There's a lot of openings and 8 wires to connect. So I printed out their wiring diagrams and I just kind of planned out what I can do. The pedal sensor just wires straight into here. There's no other devices for it to wire to. I just need a constant 40 amp, a constant 5 amp, a switched 5 amp, a ground, and then 4 wires in between the pedal sensor and the iBooster. Big harness. So I calculated how much I can run my 40 amps on. I have some 10 gauge wire. About 6 feet is the most I should do. So I'm gonna pin out one half of this, and then we're gonna route this to where our fuse and relay panel is next to the battery in the engine bay. Well, that is our iBooster wiring harness complete. Everything is nice and labeled. There you go, focus. Everything is nice and labeled. I have this is a 6-foot run. This is gonna run our 40 amp constant, our 5 amp constant, and our 5 amps fused. Got 3 wires here. That's gonna go to our fuses and relay panel in the engine bay where the old battery was. That's just behind the passenger side strut. Then I have a ground that's gonna be locally grounded right next to the iBooster. And then I have a 4-wire harness that is going from a few of the other small pins to our pedal sensor. This thing is ready to plug into the iBooster once that's finally mounted. And it's, I don't wanna say it's D-Day, it's B-Day, because the battery box is going in. So that rear box is ready to go in. I have the AN connections for the manifolds on the front side tightened down. Our cell taps are already coming out of there, and our 102 pin is waiting up there to plug in as we're lifting this up in there. So Ricky is gonna come out here, and we're gonna slowly use this guy to jack it up and then drop the car on it. Monitor it as it goes in and make sure we're not pinching any wires. Yeah, that's about it. Let's do this. Okay, boys and girls, behind me you can see the soft, shiny underbelly of that rear battery box. It's finally in, and I have a couple of orange cables in their looms to go ahead and get plugged in and routed throughout the car. But that is a huge step. That is 100% of our batteries installed. That is our PDU, that is our BMS, that is our cell taps, and yeah, that's all the batteries. So we have 2-aught cables to terminate, we have plumbing to finish, and we have HV components to eventually turn on and test. But this is a big step. Waiting for the motor to come back. We're gonna get our batteries and the rest of the car ready for that. It is the next day, and I'm gonna go ahead and get to crimping the cannon plug terminations on the 2-aught cable. So I have my instructions. They're listing out all of the internal parts that I need for these, and I have it all lined up in the same order to make sure that I have 2 of everything. And I got my crimpers that are set to already lug crimp. There's my first victim right there, hanging down. About to get stripped, put into this and get crimped. We now have, this is the most positive, when I say most positive or highest potential or highest positive, that's the highest positive that can come out of this box. So there's 12 modules inside of this box. Our most negative, which is what you can call 0 volts, that is start of the pack. Very first negative of the first module is inside of this box. So it's up in the top left corner of this box if you're looking at the front of the car. And through the jumper system, it is jumping from one module to the next, and that's what we call putting the modules in series. Inside of each of those modules, they already have 6 internal groups of batteries in series. So, and each of those runs at 4.15, 4.2 volts totally charged. So if you multiply those 6 batteries inside of each module by 4 volts, you have 24 volts-ish, just for the sake of simplicity, saying that each of those modules is 24 volts. So,
I'm keeping up.
Ricky's here, he's nodding his head, so hopefully that makes sense. So since we have 12 of those 24 modules, 24 volt modules inside of this box, when we're done seriesing or stacking, another way to say it, stacking those modules, we have 300 volts coming out of here. That makes sense?
Very simple. One AA battery is 1.5 volts. When you have a AA battery here and you put another AA battery on top, it becomes 3 volts because you're adding the voltage.
Yeah.
3 volts, the positive, that's your, what you call your top positive?
Most
positive.
Highest potential or most positive.
Because that's what you grab the 3 volts.
Yep.
That's what he's trying to say, but in Tesla terms.
Yeah, in Tesla terms. Yep. All right, anyways, now that lesson is done, this is this is completely done. So this cannon plug right here is our pack negative, most negative right here, coming from the box, because in the rear box it connects to the output that goes to the motor. So you need your most negative going to your motor. So from this most negative at this front box, it goes and connects through a couple of terminals, goes to the motor. We have cell taps for the start of our pack all the way through 6 of the modules. We have thermistors plugged in, monitoring the temperature of those. We series through the box. We now come out at 300 volts. This is the last 6 modules being cell tapped, and these are the thermistors of those last 6 modules monitoring the temperature. And so that comes all the way back here. Before it gets to the back box, we have a maintenance switch break. So then, that comes all the way down here. Oh! That's where it inputs. And then you have 4 more modules, and then this is the 400 volts that through a contactor turns on or off depending on the battery management system and the pre-charging. Once it's pre-charged with a healthy pack, it throws the full 400 volts of all 16 of our modules series together to the drive unit, which is still being serviced. So I'm closing in on the final steps of rewiring this thing for the T2C. I am getting into the nitty-gritty of this fuse and relay panel, having to rewire it. Things like the reverse lights output, the brake light for the regen output. When somebody takes their foot off of the throttle and the regen kicks in, their foot isn't on the brake necessarily, but the car is slowing down. So what the T2C does is it turns on a positive relay control to turn on the brake lights. Things like that, having to rewire. And so I've got my new map, I've got my relay, and while the motor's not in here just yet, I can still kind of stand in here. I'm gonna go ahead and stand here and get to rewiring this. So a lot of grounds to do instead of positives coming from a controller. So the 12 volt system and the high voltage system is all wired in. I have some breakers and fuses and all of the safety stuff in place. So I'm gonna power it up for the first time right now. Let's power this bad boy up and get it going.
I was just talking to Will and I was like, okay, when you kick the power on, are we gonna see a light on the shifter mechanism?
No.
He said no. I was like, are we gonna see the gauges on? He said,
Nope.
What's gonna happen?
If I've wired everything correctly and things are connected to the right things, you should see nothing happen. This is just the constant 12 volt stuff that you should see.
So if we're gonna give it power and nothing, so if nothing happens, no weird smell, that's a good thing.
That's
Wait.
when I'll smile.
What if you turn it on and nothing happens because nothing is happening?
Ooh,
How do you
that's a
know?
good
I won't
one.
know until I push that little button in there to turn on the ignition.
Oh, so we're keying on the car.
Oh yeah?
Why didn't you say that, Will?
I'm gonna take this in phases. First
All
thing
right.
I'm gonna do is turn on the breaker, and
Got
that's
it.
gonna give power to all the constant 12 volt stuff. So none of the key switch ignition stuff should turn on. If it does, I gotta rewire something. If this thing flips back off, I've got a ground fault or something. Something's drawing too much power from it.
Correct, yeah.
And then I'm gonna connect to the BMS. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna set some parameters as far as what battery pack I have and everything. That thing is defaulted right now. I need to actually program it, but I can't
So
do that.
that
until I
needs to
give-
be on.
I need to give 12
Ah, now I get it. Okay.
So it should do nothing until we give it something to do.
Exactly.
Okay, you just said it was gonna do nothing.
Well, when I flip this breaker, I want nothing to happen.
3, 2, 1, go.
Ah, I heard some click on.
Everything is on.
I heard some stuff click on. Cool.
That's on.
Oh,
That's, the
dang it.
gauges are on.
I should have checked to make sure that was off. Turn that green button off, please.
That's not. Wait, we got power. Will. I like it. No, it's off.
I know. I want it.
I like it on.
That wasn't supposed to be on. That was me holding the key switch and clicking this on. So things just started when I didn't want them to start.
So yay for Will messing up. We got to see power on.
Will messed up, but he didn't mess up.
Right.
I messed up in a good way.
Right.
We got a preview of what's to come.
So if something bad would have happened,
You'd smell smoke.
everything would have been everything here would have been done. Thank God you are the best wireman in the world, dude.
Yeah.
High five, brother. Good job, man.
Thanks. Well, I have the Orion software open. This is the first time that I've hit the profile setup wizard, and now it actually sees our COM bus. This is USB to the computer, but it's on CAN channel 1 for the BMS. So it's now finally seeing, I haven't seen this until now when things are powered up, it's telling me on COM 3, and it's asking me the baud rate. So I'm at 500. I'm gonna click this, go through the wizard, set up the batteries, set up the temperatures, set up what is connected to this BMS, and then I'll be ready to throw that maintenance switch on. Well guys, thanks for watching this episode. This is where we got to cut off for the week. I'm gonna go ahead and take over the software side of things and get this BMS configured. So that's how the iPad's gonna sit. We do have the dash mount kit on its way. Of course, we have our GTR push button, our drive select knob, and our gauges up there. This is the Wi-Fi Connect. I had that out right now because we need to configure that. So what I wanted to leave you with today was just kind of a quick little preview of starting this thing up and seeing the gauges power on. So let's go ahead and hit our temporary start button. Ooh, we got our gauges that come on. Right now the BMS is not telling the CAN communications of the state of charge, so our warning light for low status of charge is on. Temperatures are not being sent yet, but that is our throtl speed hut gauges. Really excited for that. Check out speedhut.com if you guys have not. So again, thanks for watching today's episode, and we'll see you back with a full operational system.